Hi guys, we are live, and this is going to be the third month of Feb Rising, where we talk about Morningstar, which closes out the original trilogy, and the second trilogy isn't even done yet. So this is going to close out the original trilogy, and we are excited to talk about this book today. With me, I have Klaus, Adrian, and Michael. I'm going to give them a second just to introduce their channels, because if you're not following all of them, you absolutely should be following all of them. Oh, hold on. I literally have.
It is live. We know it works.
I paused that. Sorry. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves really quick. It's Klaus, Adrian, and Michael, in case you just had the feedback loop. We go ahead and start with Klaus.
Yeah. If you don't know me, I'm Klaus. My channel is The Contradictorian, and I hate everything, and that is why I'm here.
That's true.
Oh, great. Great. I'm Adrian. My channel is All Booked Up, and I've been on YouTube, BookTube for a couple of months. And generally, I line up with opinions with Klaus. Generally, not always.
I'm Michael Nip. My channel is also Michael Nip, and I guess that compared to everyone here, I'm just the guy who loves everything. I'm a very happy person.
That's true. That's true. Didn't you rant review about something?
I do rant reviews, but people are like, even when you rant review, you sound happy. And I'm like, I'm not trying to.
What was the worst book you've read this year, Michael?
This year, I haven't read. Well, I don't want to talk about the worst one I read this year. It's very mean. It was a self-published book. Last year, the worst book I read was To Sleep in a Sea of Stars.
Oh, that's right. I thought you heavily endorsed that book.
Oh, that book was awful.
Yes, that's true.
Klaus loves orange. I like purple better than orange. Sorry, guys.
Oh, orange is the queen of colors, objectively.
What? No.
Yes.
It's a weird
No.
orange.
You know who wears orange? Roke. Roke probably wears orange.
Josiah Bancroft agrees with me, so it's
Well.
objectively orange.
Okay. Well, Bancroft knows what he's doing. All right, guys. So, all right, we're gonna talk non-spoilers to start with. Let's go ahead and kind of say our general feelings about the book. I really like this book. I give it 5 stars. I gave both second and third one 5 stars. I was talking with these guys right before. I think I liked Golden Sun slightly more, but I like the breakneck speed of this freaking book. And reading Pierce Brown, when there's an author that is willing to kill characters, it makes me very stressed out to read books, because anything and everything could go wrong at any time. And so I'm always stressed. Every time something goes wrong, I'm like, oh man, like who's going to die? This sucks. But I really liked it. I mean, I have some issues. It didn't really take away from my overall enjoyment. We're going to talk about those. I think most of us here share a lot of the same issues. But I mean, I like it reminds me a lot of the Poppy War. The Poppy War trilogy, in that a lot is happening very, very, very fast. And it's interesting to note that they both have the same agent. Hannah Bowman is R.F. Kuang and Pierce Brown's agent. Anyway, so that's my thoughts. I gave it 5 stars. Who knows if it'll stay that way, but when I was done, yeah, I gave it 5 stars. Klaus?
I did not give it 5 stars, obviously. I ended up giving it 4 stars. But that's just because of my rating system is very objective. Because if I would rate this on pure enjoyment, I would give it 3 stars at least, because the ending and a lot of stuff frustrated me and ruined the book for me completely. And it is an improvement, a huge improvement in terms of writing, in terms of everything, like technical is it's a high improvement, but I have a lot of issues. As always.
We will certainly talk about those. Adrian?
Yeah, very much agree. It was a 4-star read for me. So yeah, it was just a little bit better than Golden Sun in my opinion, personally. But I was really, I had high hopes this was going to be a 5-star, and yes, I love this series now. I can't wait for the next 2. But yeah, it dropped down to a 4-star. It was still good fun. I still enjoyed it. But yeah, not quite as. The ending did take away from it a little bit, personally.
Michael?
I've loved it since day one, and Morningstar was just kind of. I think I said in my review for Golden Sun that it was just everything but better than the first one. Morningstar, with the exception of some of choices at the end that we referenced, it was just more bombastic on every level, and so I was fully along for the ride.
Yeah,
5
like,
stars.
man, like this thing, like, okay, so we're obviously going to spoil stuff for Red Rising and Golden Sun. We're not going to spoil things for Morningstar just yet. Obviously, at the end of this, at the end of Golden Sun, like the ending of Golden Sun, where freaking the Jackal turns and kills Nero, like, you know, shoots Victra in the spine. They kill Victra, and Antonia kills her mom. Freaking everyone dies, and the only people who aren't there are Severo, Mustang, and Ragnar. And I mean, obviously, we're like, okay, well, they have to have something to do with the rescue. Like, they're the only ones that are gone. But Darrow, everyone knows is a red, and they like, how's this gonna start? Like, what is this book gonna be about? Well, I mean, we start with like Darrow in captivity and being tortured by the freaking Jackal. Like,
such a good beginning.
Seriously, like that was
torture. Yay!
That was hard to read, I thought. But so what other kind of general thoughts do you have about kind of the overall plot of Darrow is, you know, now having to lead a, you know, being outed as a red and still having to kind of lead this revolution that he's no longer really doing from the inside?
I don't want to start.
You don't want to start?
I'll just start screaming, but I can start. It's fine. So I pretty much predicted the start of this one because obviously he was a prisoner now, and so they had to try to get him out, obviously. And I liked the start of it. I really liked that start of it because Darrow was in a dark place, and he was vulnerable. And usually Darrow, I've made that claim that it is a bit like a Gary Stu for me. Like, Darrow is a bit of, he can do almost everything. And in that point, he was really vulnerable, and that added to characterization, in my opinion. So I could relate to Darrow a lot better at the start of this book because he was vulnerable for runs, and he wasn't just that invincible fighter who was beating everybody, and he was in a dark place and needed help. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I really liked a lot of the character work in here, just in general, like the relationship, like between Severo, who is, you know, now Ares taken over for Fitchner, and Darrow and Severo, and then, you know, the relationships with Ragnar, and then Mustang, who we see what happened after Golden Sun. And even the backstory we learn about the Jackal. The Jackal's the worst. Like, screw you, the Jackal. But like his backstory, like about the maze, like that is just like, man, like I don't know. I feel bad for him. He seems like, I don't know.
You feel bad for him?
I mean, I do because the Jackal, I don't know. I feel bad. Like, his dad hated him and still hates him. Well, he's dead now, but
I mean,
you know.
I don't want to make a lot of bold statements as a parent, but if I had a son that was the Jackal, I might also hate him.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes. But was the Jackal born that way, or is he that way because of Nero?
It's hard to tell, but yeah, I feel actually I am the person that normally sympathizes with people, but I'm not gonna reach that out to the Jackal.
I have to say I agree completely, Alan, on the character work front. I think that actually what you're saying, the way we lost a lot of people at the end of Golden Sun, actually means the characters we had left over, I really felt like we got to understand a little bit better here. And I think Pierce Brown did a really good job making those relatable and making me actually like care about them individually. Some of the characters who I didn't really care for much in Golden Sun, I think particularly Victra. Yeah, like I actually cared a lot more about them here. And I don't know if that's a smaller cast, or if I don't know if that's just his character work had improved.
Well,
but I definitely agree on that.
It's a great position too, because of the ending of Golden Sun, every single paradigm of power that we had established for the revolutionary side of things was completely upended. And so every single character that we have as a main character is completely out of their element. So we know that they are powerful. We know that they can do crazy things based on what they've done in the past books, but this time we have to see them all in the midst of, hey, everybody needs to step up their game now. Be like, I don't freaking know what I'm doing anymore. Everything that I had planned is gone.
It's like that video. It's like that video game trope where you start with all the cool things and then they take it away from you, and then you have to get them all back. It's kind of that same idea, isn't it?
Yes. So we're just going to go ahead and move into spoilers because the chat has already preceded us. Like the chat is filled with spoilers. So we're just going to go ahead and talk about you have our non-spoiler thoughts on Morningstar. So we're going to go ahead and start talking about spoilers, and we will get. Well, I guess we should address the big thing to start with. Like, let's address the big thing because everyone wants to talk about Cassius, and we can't really talk about Cassius without. So I think a big problem that I had, but affected me less than Adrian and Klaus, maybe. When you choose to write first person, you cannot make a plan like they made and have Darrow not think about it. Like you cheated. Like Pierce Brown, you broke the rules. Darrow knows that Severo is not dead and that Cassius is faking. And we do not get one intimation that he knows that. Like, you can't do that. It's not.
It's complete bullcrap. Like he chose to write the story this way through the whole series. He chose not to change anything because, of course, if you change perspectives now, of course that would give something away. So he just chooses to full on cheat the system in a way that I both respect and hate.
It's a violation of the Geneva Convention. It's so outrageous. I was freaking out. I was freaking out so much because I liked it. I liked it. For the first time, I liked it.
Were we all fooled? Did we all think that was real at the beginning?
I'm not gonna. Sorry. I'm not gonna say I wasn't fooled. I was jaded. I was really cautious. So when Severo was dead, I wasn't saying like, oh, he's definitely alive. But I just felt uneasy. I was like, there's something going on here. And we saw Brown do it earlier in the series in Golden Sun with training with Lorne to a much smaller degree, obviously.
Way smaller.
Yeah. Not really comparable, but he had shown a willingness to kind of spring this first person thing on us. So I was a little bit cautious. And then, when it happened, I was jaded is the word.
I love that Klaus compared it to a war crime. So I believed it. Like I was so like I was with Leslie here. So I knew it was the end of the trilogy, and we had seen him kill people before. So I was like, okay. And he had done such a good job with Cassius, like that I really thought that this was something that Cassius could do. I was mad because I'm like, man, like, come on. But what I forgot that Darrow gave him the hologram to watch the thing. If I had remembered that, I probably would have believed oh, okay. Because I just completely forgot that he gave him that. So I wasn't well, what did he show him?
Yeah, it talks about the plan that they made where they were all kind of laughing and they couldn't believe it, but it doesn't tell us what it was. So that in combination with the hologram, in hindsight, it makes so much more sense. But because it was the end of the trilogy and because that I knew that the next trilogy was supposed to be closer to Grimdark, I was, when it first happened, when Severo first died, and of course Darrow was weeping openly because his best friend died. That's how first person works. And I was like, I still don't believe this. But as the further it went on, the more I was like, I guess this is going to happen. And then when we get to the final scene where Cassius is supposed to kill Darrow on TV, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a sweet, crazy beginning for the next trilogy. Darrow is dead and the revolution has failed after getting this close. And then it all flips. And I was like, hold on. We broke some rules.
I started to realize something was up when they were taken to the Sovereign, and I'm like, well, everyone's not going to die. So I'm like, how can they get out of this? And that's when I was like, is Cassius going to turn? Like, I still thought Severo was dead. I still thought Severo was gone, and I was like, destroyed. Especially since we're in first person, and he openly wept.
Yeah.
For the death of his friend.
But I was half believing it because Severo got married right before the battle. And when your best friend gets married of your protagonist, you know he's gonna die.
Well,
he's gonna die very soon.
Exactly.
And then I was like, okay, he's shooting in way too early. It was way too soon for him to die because I was expecting like Severo dying while sacrificing his life for Darrow, because Darrow is stupid again, because he's a stupid Arrow. That's dump Arrow, Darrow, whatever. So I was half believing it. And then when they were taking his corpse with them to the Sovereign, I was like, okay, he's not really dead. And Cassius has switched sides because, yeah. But, yeah.
So I always talk about Regal being the character I like to hate most in fantasy. When I was convinced that Cassius had just killed Severo, the rage I felt for this fictional character was like seething. In real life, I wanted to hurt something. I was so mad.
Angry. I was like, Cassius, come on, man.
They had just had the moment. Exactly. They had just had the moment where they shared their like bromance with watching the videos of the Institute. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a good redemption arc, I hope. And when that happened, I was furious, like so mad.
Serious.
It made no sense. It made no sense for him to, like, it felt like after that moment you're talking about that he turned like to Darrow's side. So it to me, there's two ways you can view that. You can either go, this makes like Cassius even more hateable than he already was, or there's something going on here and Pierce Brown's cheating us a little bit. They're your two options.
Well,
but his name's Cassius, so he was named after a friggin' murderer. So
well, Albert says these twists are not in fact in the sequel trilogy, which is good to know because we'll never trust anything that happens again from a first person perspective.
Never.
It's so like it is the cheatingest thing I've ever seen an author do.
It's the author looking you in the eyes and lying to you.
I do not care.
It's not the butler. It's not the butler. I'm telling you, it's not the butler. And then it is the friggin' butler all the time.
How do y'all feel about Victra, the Victra-Severo relationship in this?
I thought Victor was dead because he shot her in the spine at the end of Golden Sun, and then she was back suddenly. And I was like, why aren't you dead? It was strange, but I like that relationship because I think they fit each other well. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Victra a lot in this one. Like, it was weird that like she didn't trust Mustang after going through that whole thing in Golden Sun where no one trusted her. I mean, but again, Mustang, like I was kind of like about Mustang for a while, but I did like Victra. I liked Victra like a lot. I thought she was a really interesting character, especially when she joins the Howlers and she's like, you know what, screw these guys. Like, screw this. Come in. I'm in.
That scene was something else. The initiation ritual and honestly.
I love Victra. I thought she was, compared to Golden Sun, where she was a nothing character to me. Like in Golden Sun, I didn't care about her at all. Like she was just another person that was there. How he made that work when we moved to Morningstar, I think is really, really impressive because by halfway through, I actually really did care about her, and I thought that was incredible. Klaus talking about you should really be dead. There are a few of those in this book that annoyed me. Cassius was
worse than Victra for me. Cassius was like, oh, the dude's freaking dead, right? You watched him get shot in the neck with an arrow
in the neck,
out, right? Like
and abandoned. And abandoned, they leave him alone for like half an hour. It feels like forever.
That's the worst fake death.
I don't understand the like how one razor slice can kill one gold, but then Aja, who is apparently 100% cybernetics, falls is like stabbed a bunch of times, falls off a cliff. And then at the end is also fighting off 3 other freaking golds. Dude. Like, what? Are you all of a sudden like been injected with the super soldier serum? Like,
dude. Why are you like Dragon Ball Z at the end of the book when she's fighting these 3 people and the 4th person is what makes the difference?
Yes, the 4th person who was in a coma for hours and then suddenly he is invincible.
He's hungover as crap. He wakes up, he's got a heart attack, and he's like, whoa!
I need that stuff. I need that stuff in my life, seriously.
It's D&D. Sneak attack is bad, like it's dangerous. Sneak attack is D&D. That's what it is. Gotta get him from behind.
It was crazy. Like I hate Aja. She's the worst.
If we're talking about video game rules, it totally is video game rules. If it's a stealth attack, it's a one-hit kill. But if everybody's been alerted, then you got to hit him like 500 times.
100%. Exactly. And it's like Cassius. Okay, it's the video game rules where when he's your enemy, he's impossible to kill. But as soon as he joins your party, he's weak. Like it's like what?
He's the Wraith of Red Rising. He's always getting away with everything.
Yes. I did like Cassius's arc in that when he turned because he's thinking about Julian, and Julian, like, he hated his older brother. Like, Cassius didn't actually like Karnas, like, screw Karnas. But he loved Julian, and this is not the world that Julian would have wanted. Like, Julian would have wanted a more, like, fair, a more just world. And that's kind of what convinces that, plus the fact that, the Jackal and the Sovereign killed his family, kind of turned it. So I did like Cassius's redemption arc. The chat was, like, ablaze with Cassius stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm a sucker for any redemption arc, but this one was well done in my opinion.
I did like this. Severo, I'm gonna kill you, Aja. I'm gonna kill you in your face.
Oh, there was some ridiculously bad one-off lines, with the worst being the "Bye Felicia" line.
That was so bad. That was so bad.
I just stopped reading. I was like, oh, you know what? Hold on, I need a break.
I could not believe that an editor read that book and said, "You know what, Pierce Brown? Bye Felicia is a perfectly reasonable thing to put in."
Yeah, I'll let you make this joke.
Going on 700 years later, they're still using the Bye Felicia meme.
It's the meme to surpass all memes. We know what it is now.
Yep. Are you kidding me? Like, okay, Pierce Brown has some, like, there are some moments where he's talking about, like, really thematic stuff. Like, his prose is really, really good. Yeah. And then there are times where I'm just like, what are you doing with these sentences? He is the most inconsistent writer as far as prose is concerned that I've read recently. And I like the books, but it's just, like, super inconsistent.
It is wild, though, because like you said, when he's giving speeches or when they're philosophizing about the nature of war and revolution, I'm like, dang, this is way better than I would expect out of a sci-fi genre fiction book. Like, he's put some thought into this. And then he says, "I'm going to kill you in your face." Or like, oh, what the heck?
I'm sorry, Leanna. The Roman culture is more enduring than the Bye Felicia. One helped pave the way for Western civilization as we know it, and the other one is the Bye Felicia meme.
We don't know what heights it has yet to reach. Maybe it's still biding its time.
Look, Leslie knows. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you.
Made me spit in the
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I had to stop reading the book during that part. I was like, oh, this is a good time to go eat lunch.
The director of Scream asks, was anybody else annoyed that, like, Darrow's Helldiver reflexes didn't return? I mean, he does have, like, the super reflexes of Helldiver, but he was missing a hand in the last one, so I'm kind of like...
Still does. It's I don't know. I sort of attributed some of his moments where he should have succeeded and he didn't to the fact that he was legitimately broken at the beginning of the book. Like, there's no way you come all the way back from that. So I appreciated when they spent the time at the beginning of the book dwelling with that, and then he had no more confidence, and he had to build up the army of friends to basically say, this is my power, I'm able to rally these people around me. And I liked that more than the first two books also have that theme, but sometimes he just does everything himself. I like that this third book is a lot of, hey, I've convinced everybody to be my real friend, and they're the ones that do most of the cool stuff.
Yeah, I love that the Telemonuses are like,
yeah.
Are you kidding? Like, we don't like Gold Society either. It blows. Like, who is it, man? Like,
the board game card that you pulled out, where it's just like all of them chilling around there, and the fox is on the guy's shoulder. I'm like, yes, this is exactly how I imagined them.
Just like... Yes, I love the Telemonuses. Like, they're just so, man. I don't know. I was really attached to those guys. I love them. Yeah. Nice. So what do you guys think about, like, the kind of the quieter moments, like we get to see Darrow reunited with his family, and talking to his mom, and Severo and Ragnar. We'll get to Ragnar, but like Ragnar coming in, and the kids are like, "Uncle Ragnar, did you bring me like a present and stuff?" Like, I really liked getting to see that Darrow being kind of accepted by, his family, even though, he's doesn't look anything like what he used to look. And, the Reds kind of like treating him, the Reaper, as this kind of messiah figure.
I thought it was super interesting. I think it was done really well. I think actually part 1 and part 2 of this book generally, I absolutely adored. I think those slower moments when Darrow first gets rescued and he's trying to work out where he fits in society now. Because he was obviously in Gold Society, now he's sort of in Red Society, but as a Gold. And I think that feeling of alienation was written really well. I really liked it. And I think you even see that when he's sort of fighting for control with Severo, where he sort of still feels alienated in both sides of the society. I think that's incredibly well done, personally.
Yeah. The stuff about Io, seeing Io's sister, and then Lyanna saying, Darrow realizing that Io is different than who she was. Like, she was just an immature, she was an immature girl. And he was just a dumb kid who like went out and got himself killed for this kind of pipe dream type thing.
Yeah. For two books, he has put Io on that pedestal in a way and telling us how perfect she was. And then in the final book, he starts to realize she isn't perfect. She made this decision to die while she was pregnant with his kid, which, yeah, what do you think about that? And so he starts realizing that Io wasn't perfect. And I really love those quieter scenes as well, like Adrian said, so that this is the reason why I enjoyed this book more, because while it was still fast-paced, incredibly fast-paced, it had those quiet moments in between those characters, and it helped me connect to them a lot more, especially that fight that Severo and Darrow had, and that talk they had afterwards. I really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, I was getting genuinely irritated at the book with the conflict between Darrow and Severo, and I'm like, is this what you're going to do, like Pierce Brown? Like, I'm not going to enjoy this book if this is the case. So I loved that chapter when they had the knockdown, drag out fight that ended in them, both like crying and being like this is too hard. Severo's like, this is too hard. It's too much pressure. And Darrow being like, retaking the mantle of Ares or like the control of the Rising. Like, it was just so good. Cause I was like, okay, cool. Now I'm on good footing. Cause I was so mad when like they were at each other's throats. I did not like that at all.
Yeah, the bromance elements in any story are like something I'm a sucker for.
Yeah.
And the trope of friends having to get in this massive fight and then realizing, coming to grips, like that trope, I don't care how many times you do it, I love it every single time. I know the people hate it, but I never will.
Yeah. It is a typical boy moment. And John, I think that's true. Darrow outgrew the memory of Ao. Like, he's so far removed from who he was at the beginning of Red Rising. So we need to discuss our boy Ragnar, Godchild. Like, Ragnar, first of all, again, I don't understand how Aja beat Ragnar, especially when she was also fighting Darrow and Mustang. I don't understand it. Ragnar is a stained, and Ragnar has literally been able to mow through hundreds of combatants, and all of a sudden, Aja. I'm so mad. You've
got to prove Aja's chops though, because she's been built up in the first 2 books as being this like super powerful, like trained with law, and like we got told how amazing she was, but we never really saw it. So if you're going to have four golds to take her down at the end, you need to actually show us that she can do something and that she's actually a good fighter, because you've told us a million times.
And
so she's
Ragnar
got to do
was
something.
slower, that's true. But like, I was so sad, like when he died. Like, I loved Ragnar. I don't know why. Like, I don't know. I liked Ragnar a lot.
Ragnar was the first important death in my opinion, because who died until then? Some howlers, sad for them, but honestly, I cared about Ragnar, Severo, Mustang, and Darrow. Those were the people I cared about. Pax, yeah, okay, but that was in the first book already at the ending. Yeah, so
Victor a little bit, but yeah, I get the point.
I didn't really care about Victra and Nero or Augustus. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, and then he died, and that sort of raised the stakes in a way.
Yeah, I did not know that. Like again, it's the end of a trilogy, so I thought he might die at the end. I did not expect him to die halfway through the book.
Mhm.
And so that just shocked me, especially how much they built it up as him having to go and lead his people out. Like Brown just built it up to be this huge thing, and then dead before you even get there. Dead before you even get there. Like that's dead in the winter wastes. Like
That
what?
was an Abercrombie thing to do. Yeah, didn't see that coming.
Yeah, his last few lines were like the fact that he died being free. Like, I love the Obsidians kind of like seizing their freedom, that they don't have to. Seeing when they showed, what's his sister's name, Sephi, when they showed Sephi that they are not gods, and they just killed Loki and Thor and all them up there, like they just killed
was that too fast? Because we've seen how long it took Darrow to convince Ragnar in the second book, and then it went a bit too fast for me for that entire society to be turned around completely. I mean, he shows them that they aren't really gods, but it went really fast.
Yeah,
I was okay with it, but it could have been a bit more slow.
What I found interesting was that Sephi and Ragnar's mum clearly knew that. So actually, that to me sort of, one, it's really interesting, sort of showing the higher ups and their collusion, basically. So even within particular colours, there is sort of the higher ups who collude with the people above, which I find really interesting. But I think that sort of helps explain some of that speed. If some in the culture know it, and actually I think that does filter down, even if it's not sort of consciously. I think there's that subconscious filtering down of, oh, you knew this was fake. And that sort of makes things turn quicker.
There's something to be said for momentum, I think. When you come back having killed someone and then you start killing more people, it's going to rapidly escalate.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, like Pete says, the seeds were kind of sown by Ragnar's messengers. And
True.
Also back to the Aja thing, Brent makes a good point. Ragnar was the Ash Lord's personal fighting slave, and Aja, being his daughter, would have been familiar with the way Ragnar fights. So that makes sense. Now, speaking of Sephi, one thing I didn't understand, and this was like my least favorite part of the book, other than Pierce Brown looking us in the eye and lying. My least favorite part of the book was when the Jackal executes Uncle Narbonne, and then all of a sudden there's like a mutiny on all of the ships. I don't know why they're mad at the Golds who didn't kill Uncle Narbonne instead of the Jackal who did kill Uncle Narbonne. Like, I didn't understand that, and I didn't like it. I mean, I like how it resolved. Like, I thought Severo, like right here, like Cheyenne says, Severo hanging himself. And again, I thought Severo was going to die here. I was like, okay, Severo is going to die to save the Rising. And I was fine with that. Like, I was like, I don't like that, but okay. So I liked how it resolved, but I don't understand how we got there from the execution of Uncle Narbonne, which, like, the Golds in those ships were on their side. Like, why? Y'all have thoughts on that? I didn't like that part at all.
I think it's the other way around. I think Pierce Brown had that scene in mind with the hanging, getting there, showing Cassius, you should maybe think about stuff by saving him with Severo. And then he thought about, how could I get to that scene? How could I lead my plot to that point? And then he was like, we need an uprising against the Golds, against their allies, and so let's just do the thing.
Uncle Narl. Sorry, I've been saying his name wrong.
I think you're right, Klaus, but I think there are some mitigations you could pull. So, like, I think that the fact that if you think about Darrow when he was a Red, like, does he really differentiate between Golds? Like, Golds are Golds. Like, and I think especially for the Obsidians who have been raised with them as their gods, I suppose it's harder to get past that Golds are Golds. Although you'd think Sephi particularly would be able to get past that, you'd have thought. But I completely agree. I think that Severo scene is so good. I almost think that, because I was like, I want this scene, how do I make it happen? And to be fair, I thought the payoff was worth me not quite getting why they were sort of rebelling. So I think the payoff was great. Like, Alan, you'll get this, but it felt like a great coach speech. Like, I just adored it. Like, it was just like, boom, heroic speech. Like, do something epic. Like, lay it all on the line. I really liked that, even if I didn't necessarily like the build-up.
So, I agree that I think that plot, the way that he accomplished it was just very, very, very forced. But what I do appreciate is, and they alluded to it earlier in the book in the slow section where Darrow was able to meet with his family, is I think that in fiction, it's really easy to get behind the idea of like, oh, there's a revolution. These are the good guys. The Golds are the bad guys. The society is evil. Not understanding that when you're leading a violent revolution, everybody involved in the violent revolution isn't going to be like this moral, awesome person. So when they're looking over the stalactite city or whatever, and they're talking about all the like violent crimes that are still happening, and there's people that are just using this as an opportunity to take advantage to people that are weak, and there's people that are horrible people that are like, oh, violence is now okay, and they're using this in a bad way. I think that it's hard because you don't want to take the entire momentum away from the story that's being told. But I like that Pierce Brown was able to work in the fact that, hey, along the way, the revolutionaries are going to have some infighting, and that's something you have to stop right away. You have to nip it in the bud, or it's going to become a civil war, and it will fizzle itself out. So while I think that plot point, obviously the resolution of that plot point is amazing, and I think that how we got there was bad, I love that we got to explore a little bit of that tease that we got at the beginning where, hey, just because these people are on the side of the revolution doesn't mean that they're all buddy and friends and they're all supporting the same cause.
You don't have one homogenous people set who are part of the revolution. Like, everyone is individual, and people will be for a multitude of reasons.
Well, and when your unifying factor is screw everything, let's conquer. It's not the best unifying factor because it can split, like Leona says, it can be splintering everywhere. It can go so bad.
Yeah. I liked, like, speaking of revolution and everything, like at the end, I did like that. I forget the quote. I don't write quotes down. I wish I did, but it's like, this is the, like, revolutions. This is about compromise. Like, we can't get everything that we set out to do. Like, we can't get the government that we want. This is the best government that we can get through compromise. Because, and I haven't read the next book, so I don't know like what has happened. It's, Iron Gold's 10 years later, with Mustang as I guess president or sovereign or whatever it is. But I did like that it showed that compromises have to be made. Like, you're not going to get everything you want. Like, you can't, because if you do, you're going to have to literally destroy. You're going to have to kill every gold. Yeah. Like, and that's not logical. Like, you're not going to be able to kill everyone to stop it. Like the compromise they had to make with Romulus and the outer lords. Like, when he's like, I have to leave hundreds of thousands of Reds in chains, but if we don't win here, we can't do anything for them anyway. It was
such a hard decision, man.
Oh, I know. It was tough. Like,
especially the point that he was giving up the sons of Ares on Jupiter, basically. And I don't think he had to do that, because at the point where he brings in those nuclear weapons, there was no way they were going to help the other guys. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, where he offers up the sons of Ares, yeah, and they did extend the hey, you guys need to get out, but he knows that they didn't all, they're not all going to get away. So that was a tough.
And then when he uses him and then chooses to cripple him and lie about it, that part too, you're like, oh, that's going to be a perfect setup for the next trilogy, because that's
I know. It looks at the end of it that Romulus knows. Like, at the end, Romulus is like, okay.
He's like, good move. You beat me this round, but oh, dang, that's a bad choice, dude. You're making enemies.
You're lying to my face. You're lying to my face like Pierce Brown did to us.
Darrow also cheated.
Yeah. And that decision is a reason why I hated the ending, because he gets that happy ending, that picture book, fairy tale happy ending with Mustang and his child. Where did that child come from? Seriously. And I hated that.
Do you need me to explain where children come from?
Yeah, please.
Well, 9 months ago.
That was like cursed child. Bellatrix Lestrange was pregnant all the time, and there's a child, and suddenly, like, no way, honestly.
No, I agree, Albert. Like that move.
It was savage.
Yeah, it was definitely savage.
That was the point for me where I thought Darrow actually showed some tactical chops. Like I really thought, oh wow, okay, I don't like what you've done here, but you've actually shown me that you could be a competent, if somewhat brutal leader. I thought that was great.
A message to you, Klaus.
Yeah, I will not stop.
So speaking of tactics, what do we think of Roke? And someone said earlier the imagery about Roke in front of the hologram, like looking like a musical conductor, was really, really good. I also really like that. Here it is, the description of Roke looking like a conductor. I thought that was excellent. I hate Roke, and I couldn't believe that Roke threw everything. Like the fact, like comparing. I love the juxtaposition of Roke and Cassius. Like Cassius, who has every reason to hate Darrow, and has. You know, despite starting out friends, but then at the end comes to see reason. But Roke, who stood by Darrow from the beginning and then sticks with his betrayal. Like, I hate him. I hate his dumb, stupid poet face. Who killed him? Like, was it Darrow that killed him? Who killed him? Someone shot him, punched him?
He killed himself.
Yeah, he kills himself.
Yeah.
Oh,
He killed himself.
He kills himself in the most poetic, epic, like self-destructive, like the world is ending, and he says a poem and then kills him. Like it's the most emo.
Yeah.
I hated him so much more than I hated Cassius, and I know that comes to the end as well. But like before that ending, I hated him so much more than I hated Cassius.
I feel like Roke's. I feel like they built up Roke in the first 2 books. Until obviously the very end, to be someone that was going to be convinced to be good, kind of like a Tactus, but not as, he didn't start as in as bad a place as Tactus. So I just didn't feel like where he was in Morningstar, the way he had full turned or whatever, it didn't fully set in for me, except, I mean, maybe it makes sense that he was like, oh, I'm for changing some things to be better, but having Darrow revealed as a full-on red was too much. That's the justification they tried to use in the story. It didn't feel great to me. He wasn't going to turn. So, I mean, I sort of did enjoy his, like, ridiculously My Chemical Romance death, but...
Yeah. Yeah, and Leslie's right. I mean, Pierce Brown, remember when he comes out as a red to Severo, and he's trying to think of who else would join. And I mean, Severo tells him Roke would never portray gold. Like Roke is too like hung up on the those supremacists right here, those supremacist ideas that gold is superior. So I think you're right. Like Roke doesn't particularly like the way gold rules, but gold should rule. So
I looked, so in relation to that mention from Severo, I tried multiple times throughout the book to see if there's a character whose advice is the advice everyone should have been following the entire way through. The only character who is ever completely right when they tell them who to trust and who not to trust is mostly Mustang. Mustang is right like 99% of the time she gives advice, and either they listen or don't listen. She's the one that was right. So I don't fully take Severo's telling him not to trust Roke, because Severo tells him not to trust other people, and they do, and it's fine. Mustang is the only one where if Mustang says something, you better do it, or the series is going to go bad.
Do you guys like Mustang? I mean, we all hate Roke. Roke sucks. Do you guys like Mustang?
I hate everyone. No, I like Mustang well enough, but I don't think like the absolute ending is them being together, and I feel like the ending doesn't fit the book, because we see some scenes with the two of them in Morningstar where they're like sweet and together and happy, but not like really happy, and we never see them being in that relationship. Really, they are never really in a relationship, and then suddenly at the ending they are the happy family. So where does that come from? I don't know.
Leslie said you still don't trust Mustang? What the crap? I feel like Mustang has gone full face by the end of the book. Like she's the good guy. I'm not really suspicious of her at all. I like her. I think that I'm kind of a sucker for romance too. So I'm glad that she and Darrow got their happy moments together. I feel like throughout the series, she was maybe overused as hey, she's got the smart idea. Stop not listening to her.
Klaus, look, the ending is happy. The sequel trilogy takes all this away.
Do you know what? I totally agree with Klaus about the relationship in some respects. So, like, I don't mind it, apart from the fact that it feels like Darrow's making the same mistakes he made with EO all over again. Yeah. Like, the whole thing was with EO that he now, later on, realizes that he has idealized her somewhat and that she wasn't perfect. Like, he loved her and they had a relationship, but she wasn't perfect. And it feels to me like we don't see that much of him getting to know Mustang, really, and actually like getting to understand her. And he's now idealizing her in the same way that he idealized EO. And I found that's my only issue with their relationship. Otherwise, like from a romantic point of view, I'm quite happy with it. But I just kind of want that character growth we saw where Darrow looks back at his relationship with EO and thinks, oh, it wasn't perfect. I want him to keep going down that line of thinking.
In the trilogy, though, we are given no reason to not see Mustang as perfect, I don't think. She makes every right decision. She kind of is the idealized character in the story.
Do you think Darrow
it's so strange.
But it's first person, so that's all from Darrow's viewpoint.
It could be unreliable. That's right.
She did, like you said, she doesn't objectively make right decisions as well. So there's two sides of it, I suppose.
Klaus. Your face.
Go ahead, Klaus.
I don't think he would have killed Mustang. He would have imprisoned her or whatever, because he didn't even kill Cassius. And
definitely would have killed Mustang. He's a liar.
He wouldn't have killed her. And the weird thing that doesn't get into my face is Gold is not a patriarchal society. Like, they have the female sovereign, and still nobody is listening to Mustang half the time. Why? Just because she's a woman? It doesn't make any sense at all. Like,
because they don't want the plot to be too easy.
Okay.
Well, yeah, part of it is they don't, like, a lot of them don't trust Mustang because she is the brother of the Jackal. Like, unfortunately, her brother has tainted their ability to trust her.
Okay, everybody in the series is always like, oh, this person's related to this person, you can't trust them. How many freaking times do we see everyone murk their own family? I don't buy that. Yeah. Everybody in this story is selfish as crap.
Mustang was the secret.
Well, Leslie's right. Mustang keeps hearts.
She does. She full on keeps the child from. And somebody mentioned in the chat that there were hints that Mustang was pregnant at the end of Golden Sun. I had picked up on some of those and forgot about them. Kind of like I had picked up the fact that Io was pregnant, and I forgot about that as well until this book. But yeah, I understand not trusting her, but I feel like her actions at the end, only her actions at the end prove her, I feel like, to be, as for the revolution's concepts as she can be, I guess.
Yeah.
She's more truthful than Darrow. Darrow has been lying to her for 2 books, and we are talking about Mustang here.
That's such a... The Darrow's lie is one of the biggest conflicts until this book, when he makes some tactical, savage decisions. Like, Darrow's lie is the one that he doesn't want to lie, but dang, if his secret gets out, it's like the worst possible thing that could happen until this book, when it finally does happen. It makes a great conflict for the series.
And never forget that Darrow lies to us for 4 chapters.
That's the worst. That's the worst sin.
That's the worst one.
Honestly,
So guys, what did you guys feel about the end of the Jackal? Because I honestly thought, like, before we kind of got to the end and I saw where it was headed, I thought that the new trilogy was going to end with the Jackal in charge. Like, I thought the Jackal was going to be the big bad of the new trilogy. And even when it looked like the Jackal was going to die, I'm like, Jackal's going to get away. Jackal's going to get away. No, they hanged him. They hanged him good. Rip like the fact that the Jackal is just like raging against his captivity, and he's just so pathetic. Like, the Jackal, when it comes down to it, is just like, he's just a pathetic little serial killing child, like, that just wanted to pull the wings off of flies and set fire to dogs in the forest.
Sure.
And he's just, Ugh, the
He's
jackal.
disgusting. He's like actually a vile person, and he comes from a place of like maybe it was trauma growing up, but regardless, at this point he's making his own decisions, and he's a monster. So yes, it was very much comeuppance when he gets his tongue ripped out, and then he gets hung. I thought it was very good.
When Darrow is like, I cut off the wrong organ. Like, I should have ripped out, like, his tongue was his weapon.
Oh, yes. It was like the most satisfying, I think.
I thought he was pathetic at the end. He is absolutely terrifying.
I think it's interesting that he kind of still, okay, he dies, but he still gets off his sort of dying shot, doesn't he, with the nukes? And I find that interesting that
what a wild plot.
Yeah, like he's dead, but he's still like, he says, "Don't do it, otherwise this." He still gets that sort of blackmail threat off, and wow.
I thought Darrow was not going to do the thing, because I'm sitting there going, Darrow's going to be like, well, I can't be responsible for those people. Like, you trust him to not kill them anyway? You just have to kill them and hope for the best, man.
Yeah, I forgot about that, Adrian, until you just brought it back up. I didn't like the nukes going off plot. I thought all of a sudden I was in a Michael Bay movie, and I was like, out of nowhere, it becomes this thing, and then all of a sudden, the nukes are going off. Booze! Booze! And it's like...
But it fit the jackal so well, though. It was like something that he would do. He would definitely have a dead man's trigger or whatever.
I mean that's true, but I didn't like the.
It was a little much
from the beginning. They're like, oh, the jackal stole nukes. I wasn't a fan of that just to start with. I'm like, man, nukes. There's just such an easy way out. Like, oh, well, I nuked the civilization. Done. So.
But it's a great way to start off the next series with like, well, the one of the main capital cities we potentially had is gone. It's not there.
That's true. I've read the back of Iron Gold where it's like there's three, like there's Mustang and and Mars, the center part with the Republic or whatever, and then the Ash Lord has like the moon, the lunar planets like Mercury and Venus, and then Romulus has control of the outer. So I'm really interested to see where all that's going to go.
Yeah.
Jackal, as if the Joker had a trust fund. That's true. Yeah, I agree, K-Fox. I don't know who is going to take up the Jackal's mantle, or if they'll just be lamer. I mean, the Ash Lord, get out of here. Like Romulus, I like Romulus as a character. Even just the brief time we had with him, I thought he was, cool.
Lysander will take up the thing.
Do what?
Lysander, what's his name? Lysander, the
the grandkid. Or
the grandkid.
Nephew? What is he? A nephew?
He's the grandson of
of the Sovereign.
Of Lorne and the Sovereign.
Okay.
Yeah. He's gonna turn bad.
You think so?
Bad.
I think he could be the good side.
Yeah,
I agree, Michael.
He's seen everything throughout the whole time, and when he saw Darrow in his brief meeting with the Sovereign at the beginning of the book, he respected Darrow, and then Darrow treated him nicely until Tactus stole him. Like, I think I could see him being a good guy. Maybe it's an arc, but I would like that.
He's one of the 4 POVs in Iron Gold.
Oh, sweet.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. It's Darrow, Lysander, and then a couple other people who I don't know.
I would assume Pax and Mustang?
No, it's not. It's 2 people.
Pax is dead.
Well, New Pax.
Oh, he meant little Pax.
Little
Pax. Okay, sorry, yeah.
Tetra Pack, yeah.
But I mean, Lysander's with Cassius currently, so I mean, we'll get our Cassius fix from the Lysander POV. I'm excited. I know Klaus is bowed out. Klaus has tapped out. Pierce Brown betrayed him one too many times by lying to his face, and Klaus is a man of honor and cannot brook such foolishness.
I will not accept that anymore. Unforgivable.
Oh, look at that. Cheyenne agrees. She thinks Lysander is going to be the big bad.
Dang.
Does there need to be a big bad? Because if we've got those 3 factions, could it not just be a little bit more grimdark and a little bit more like these are 3 factions that have their own interests and their own motivations, and sometimes they clash? I don't know. Maybe Brown won't do that. Maybe he thinks he's a big bad. But
I mean, I'm fine with that.
I would find that super interesting.
And then the way you make it interesting is when you have people betray or switch sides. So that could work.
which we know Brown is very happy to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea where it's going to go. Like none. And so, is there anything else in Morningstar that we need to talk about? Who do we not talk about? Holiday? Do y'all like Holiday?
Yeah.
I picture her as like. I just read Spellslinger. I picture her as Farius Parfax from that, like a gunslinger, like an old cowboy. That's what I picture her at, using like the real guns.
The actual has real guns, yeah.
Yeah. I liked her.
I thought she was interesting. I thought that Brown did a good job getting her into the story really quickly, making you care about her really quickly by having her like maybe better brother die, and it was
As
well done.
always.
Yeah.
There's always that initial death that spawns everything. EO, Quinn.
That's a trope that everyone can talk
Trig.
bad about.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think that it is a perfect
he uses it all the time.
It's a perfect way to take a character and force
absolutely.
them to have a paradigm shift immediately.
Yeah.
What was? Sorry, I missed it. What?
Killing someone close to people. Like,
oh yeah, 100%.
That people get tired of that trope, but it's the most realistic way to have someone change so fast.
Yeah, definitely. We haven't talked about the Mexican standoff in that in Quicksilver's building, where everybody was in the same room.
Oh, that was good.
And nobody important, like the one Fury dies, but everybody else, like Cassius, Mustang, everybody's shooting at each other, fighting each other. All of them get away. And I was like,
that's where you just have to set up that like Severo is making a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked Quicksilver. I thought
Quicksilver was the best.
Yeah. I definitely believed he was a son of Ares and that he was playing the Jackal. It wasn't unbelievable for me. I wish we had gotten more of Quicksilver.
Definitely.
I thought he was a cool character, like the guy that just controls, like he's the financier, like he controls all of the money and the media. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's that behind the scenes thing, isn't it? He was a great character. I think that was one of the things that got me invested in this book more than the other ones, was getting to see Quicksilver and sort of what follows from there. I think he's done very well.
Yeah. Well, guys, like, unless y'all have any final thoughts, like, I think we can all agree that you can't write first person and keep something that huge from the reader. Like, I can't believe, I've never seen its like.
I still have to respect it a little bit. It's the boldest choice.
The sheer ball.
Yes, exactly. The amount of hubris that goes into a choice like that.
Oh my god.
Definitely, yeah. Lots of self-confidence involved.
But the thing about it is, it could have been the exact same plot could have been organized without Darrow knowing. Like, Darrow didn't have to know for it to have gone off.
He could have killed Cassius, though. Like, he probably wouldn't have, but that's really risky. But yeah, having it all be just for what's the girl's name that was in the jail? Antonia. Having it just for Antonia's show and then have it. It's such a weird choice.
Weird choices. Speaking of weird choices, keeping Antonia in the prison next to the one Thistle, or what her name is, who she killed.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Honestly,
pretty dumb. Pretty dumb.
I know they were trying to turn them, but all you do is, if there's 3 cells, Antonia, empty cell, Thistle. Not Antonia, bars connecting to second cell, where you can do this.
Let's be real. Like, I don't know how big the cells are, but Thistle probably should have been so close to the dang bars. Like, you don't pull the tiger's tail at the zoo, dude.
What far future prison has bars anyway?
Doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah,
fair point.
I mean, that's true. That's true. Oh man, there's a lot of interesting choices made in Morningstar. Well, guys, thank you guys so much for joining us. And guests, panelists, thank you guys for joining me. This was a blast to talk to you guys about this book. We will be doing Iron Gold this month in May. With all brand new set of panelists, and we'll see how it goes. Klaus, since you're not going to read it, you can just show up and learn everything that happens. So Leslie wants you to know that she's howling. She is a howler fan. Real quick, Stories with Sheik wants to know if we liked Morningstar better than Golden Sun. I personally liked Golden Sun a little better, I think, but I really liked Morningstar. I think everyone else liked this one better. Is that true?
Marginally.
I usually have a hard time
lot.
separating pieces of a story, so I just see it as one whole, and this just ramped it up.
I got you.
I loved it. I loved it a lot more than the first two, and that is why I was so angry when the ending happened. Because I was invested. So yeah.
I completely understand. Well, guys, we'll see what Feb Rising rolls on in May, so we'll see what we think about Iron Gold and if it just completely makes the entire first trilogy pointless. In which case, I'll be so mad if it just renders the first 3 books just useless. I'll be so mad. Like,
I'll be waiting for you.
I'm actually eager to see, because from most of people that have read all the books, other than Leanna, think Iron Gold is the worst. Like, most people I know like Iron Gold the least, except for Leanna, who likes it. So we'll see. All right, guys, thank you guys for joining us, and have a great rest of your day. See you guys. I'm going to end broadcast.